Welcome to Cinema Filibuster. I am one half of the team, Jonathan Sulzbach. Sean and I, in this episode, talk about the 2016 film Shin Godzilla, that is, Godzilla Resurgence. It had a limited run in the US, and to be honest, I completely forgot that we did this podcast, but here it is, uncut except for the very beginning and the very end, which is very rare for Cinema Filibuster, but it's just that good, or I'm just that lazy. We'll let you decide. Enjoy.
And now, your hosts, Sean Hastings, an independent filmmaker and screenwriter extraordinaire, Jonathan Sulzbach, a writer, graphic designer, and voice actor. Together, these fine fellows form Cinema Filibuster.
Hi, everyone. This is Sean Hastings.
And this is Jonathan Sulzbach.
Plus donut.
I've got a nice pumpkin spice donut.
He does. Oh, it's a pumpkin spice? You didn't tell me it's pumpkin spice. You just said it was an old-fashioned.
Do you want a piece?
Oh, please. Okay, now you talk to him for a while.
So we just finished seeing Shin Godzilla, or Godzilla Resurgence. Mm-hmm. The latest and greatest Godzilla film from Toho Studios.
And greatest. Hold it. Are you letting something out of the bag? Oh, sorry. I'm spitting all over your car. Dang it, John.
What's the phrase, latest and greatest? We'll be dissecting it as we do on Cinema Filibuster.
Sure.
To determine if it's truly the greatest.
And we're eating donuts from, what's the place called again?
Top Pot Donuts.
Top Pot Donuts. Not a sponsor, although we are open to suggestions.
Indeed. I have a good friend who works at Top Pot.
Well, I have a good friend who has a good friend who works at Top Pot. That would be you.
Aw, shucks.
Yeah. All right. Okay, now we're donut up.
So, I was in San Diego about 2 weeks ago.
Yes, you were.
When I learned of the existence of this film. Mm-hmm. I was looking for film credits for Bryan Cranston, and that led me to Godzilla 2014.
Yeah.
And then somehow I saw Godzilla 2016, like, oh, it's out already? I'm thinking it would be the sequel to the 2014 film.
Oh, yeah, no.
Or just a poster that I had seen online. Mm-hmm. Then I read about it, and like, oh, this is real Godzilla. This is authentic Godzilla.
A lot of people who firmly believe in that statement that only Toho Studios can produce authentic and real Godzilla.
So, how did you hear about it?
How did I
or
heard it?
Is it always on your radar?
Well, I'm always doing image searches for Godzilla stuff to put on my desktop, to have put it in the rotation so I get the cool, fire breathing and the like. And Godzilla's been, good grief, he has been. Ever since I've been a small child, I have loved Godzilla movies. The original 1954 to 1974 run of Godzilla. We used to show in my hometown. They had during the summer when school was off, they had Monster Week on the afternoon movie, and they showed a Godzilla movie of various types. And I mean that was kind of the highlight of my summer almost was Monster Week. So I've been in love with Godzilla forever. So I'm constantly.
It's funny you mentioned Monster Week because my familiarity with Godzilla comes from Sci-Fi Channel running a series of Godzilla movies always around Thanksgiving, I think.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Ago,
I do.
They would do this thing where they had Godzilla movie marathon, and they would have a Clint Eastwood, I think it must have been the Dirty Harry marathon.
Oh, well.
And then they had...
On Sci-Fi? Really? Dirty Harry? Interesting.
Well, maybe it wasn't Sci-Fi, but...
Well, either way.
There were these Thanksgiving marathons. It's like,
on television.
You want to watch Dirty Harry? You want to watch Godzilla?
No.
It's Thanksgiving. Be thankful.
Be thankful for Godzilla and Clint Eastwood.
And I saw a lot of this, what I think are the 70s films. Mothra and...
that's all from the 60s. Yeah.
And Mechagodzilla.
Mechagodzilla, yeah.
So that's where I came into the knowledge of Toho's Godzilla. But you and I, a year ago, 2 years ago, watched the original Godzilla. And then we watched the Raymond Burr edition.
Right. Well, being the Godzilla fan that I am, I have the special edition DVD, which has the original. In fact, it was the first time the original Gojira was released in the United States. So I'd never seen it before until I bought that edition. Of course, I bought that before I even moved up here. And it also came with, of course, the Raymond Burr edition, which was, when they first imported Godzilla over here, they figured there was such a cultural dichotomy between 50s America and, which at the time was getting close to being 60s America because it was in the late 50s. They figured we need to to anglicize this a little bit so American audiences will find it palatable. And so they got Raymond Burr, got some money together, and the releasing company that bought Gojira from Toho, or bought the releasing rights in the United States, shot all this stuff, re-edited it, and then released it as Godzilla King of the Monsters, which that is then I showed. In fact, we watched the first one, and then I was just going to show you the first couple of scenes, and we ended up watching the whole thing.
And somehow... I forget, we watched the original first and then the Raymond?
Yeah, we watched the original first, and then I just wanted to show you a little bit of how different it was.
It was so fascinating to see how they cut things in and made a different movie.
Mm-hmm. And they did, I think, a pretty decent job. I mean, I saw it when I was a little kid, so to me, it all, through the fog of youth, just meshed together into one cool movie, so I wasn't really looking for it. But even now, with, a lot of movies under my belt and, some education in that area, it still holds up pretty decently. I mean, it's still watchable. I can watch it now and still get just as much enjoyment out of it as I used to.
So, gauging your excitement for Godzilla reaching back into the past.
Oh, yeah.
So, Godzilla Final War, I think that was around 2004?
Final War, yeah. That was the last of the third iteration of the Godzilla series.
So, did you know that this new film was under wraps, or not under wraps, on the way? Or
I
just surprise you?
Heard rumblings of it, but I think I've known for about a month because I saw the poster Shin Godzilla and I thought, oh, Toho's doing another one, which kind of works because the third iteration of the Godzilla franchise from Toho started not too long after the Matthew Broderick Sony edition, because they decided, no, we're going to do this a little better than you.
So to bring our viewers up to speed, so 1954, original Japanese Godzilla spanned until...
from 1954 to about 1975 with the Terror of Mechagodzilla, and that was... And I'm pretty sure it's Terror of Mechagodzilla. If I'm making any... errors, because it's one of the two Mechagodzilla movies, but I think it is, the Terror of Mechagodzilla in like 1974 or 5 was the first iteration, and that's when they stopped the series because it stopped making money. And then we didn't see another Godzilla for 10 years until 1984. Toho released Godzilla...
1985.
Well, yeah, it was... they released it in 1984 in Japan under the title of... Godzilla Returns, and then it was released in the United States in 1995 under the auspice of Godzilla 1985. Did I say 95 that first time?
That's okay.
And anyway, yeah, sorry.
We'll follow you.
We'll edit it. Thank you. But it's but yeah, and that started the second iteration, which made it through. This is where I get fuzzy because I lost track of it through the second iteration, and it stopped.
Somewhere
I think
into
the 90s, and then it didn't start back again until the late 90s or early 2000s with the third iteration. Well, I guess it would be Godzilla 2000 or Godzilla Millennium. I think was the other title, but it started with Godzilla 2000, and then it sort of rebooted again, and then that was the third iteration that ended with Godzilla Final War.
And by iteration, we mean that the
volume.
The canon sort of gets reset.
Yeah.
So,
as it has now, again. So,
and you mentioned the Matthew Broderick. Was that 2000?
I don't know.
1998 or something?
It was something. Yeah, it was late 90s, I think.
And that was a one-off. It just kind of died.
Well, people...
it was popular, but it was not good.
Well, I thought the movie was all right. In fact, I can watch it again quite happily. I just don't...
Have a donut.
He's going to eat a donut, ladies and gentlemen. So the crackling and rending of flesh you're hearing is the life of a donut being torn hideously.
A big one. Sorry, continue.
Oh, no, it's a big guy. It's... what's the place called again? Hot Pots, ladies and gentlemen. Top Pot, sorry. Top Pot, ladies and gentlemen, for the best in coffee and donuts. Not a sponsor. Yet. But I liked it. I just... If it hadn't been called Godzilla and it was just Giant Monster Attacks New York... people would have accepted it because it just wasn't enough Godzilla. But like I say, I thought the movie was fine. In fact, I considered it not a remake of Godzilla, but a remake of The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which is the movie that inspired Godzilla. So I decided it's a remake. If it was a remake of a Ray Harryhausen movie, it sits in your stomach a little bit better than it does, like in Terracoated Aspirin, than it does as a Godzilla movie, because Godzilla is a very beloved character,
and he's not supposed to be.
And yes and no. He's in Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, he fights off aliens. Actually, that's what saved the franchise. They turned him into a hero, and he fights the aliens off. And the human secret agent storyline that's going on underneath the trampling monsters, and of course the aliens we are controlling the monsters to destroy Tokyo. And
convenient.
While they're doing that, we must stop them, or they will destroy Tokyo. And my lips weren't moving with that, just in case it loses something in a podcast. Never mind.
Loosely, that brings us to 2016. Godzilla Resurgence.
Godzilla Resurgence, which John and I have just seen. All right, and again, as we are apt to do in these situations, we have not discussed this. We've come out of the theater, went to Hot Pots, Big Pots. Dang it!
There goes the sponsorship shot.
Bag of Pot. What's it called?
That's their competitor's name.
Oh, sorry. What are they called again? Oh, Top Pot. We came out of the theater, went to Top Pots, the best in donuts and coffee, and then we drove up to. We're now here on top of the parking structure inside John's car. We have not spoken about what we thought of it, which, since I've done the lion's share of the talking so far, and John is drinking coffee right now, I will say, John, what did you think?
I enjoyed the film. I really did. I'm so glad that they did not do English subtitles. Or, sorry, dubbing. They had English subtitles, but they didn't give American voices to the Japanese performers.
Right.
Although, looking back on older films, that was kind of an endearing thing. But for this modern Godzilla, it's good to hear the Japanese spoken.
Well, you get the performance. I mean, these Japanese, Godzilla commands the highest level of talent. I mean, you have the equivalents of, Patrick Stewart and Kenneth Branagh. These are the Japanese equivalents that want to be in this movie because it's a big deal. So you get really good acting talent. In fact, back in the day, you had people swapping back and forth between Godzilla and Akira Kurosawa films. Wow. So you've got top of the line actors, and with the subtitles, you get the performance. Right. You get the pathos of them, which you don't get with "We must destroy Godzilla. He is over there. Quick, go!" It doesn't. No offense to the dubbers, they do fine work, but
the worst lines in the film came from those who were speaking English, like the president.
Yeah.
And some senators.
Well, they don't spend the money on those guys.
They're delivering these lines worse than if they were reading it off of paper. I don't know how that's possible.
Well,
there's this one scene where they're walking out of a door after having some serious, solemn contemplation. Yeah. Someone pats someone on the back and says something about the inspiration of mankind, fate of humanity, blah, 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 only way. And then he's like,
"Oh yeah, that's right." It's like the scientist was leaving. Yeah,
it hit me on the head. You're just like clunk.
What? What are you saying?
Not even the best performer could make that into a natural-sounding phrase.
No, it was probably they probably got an American, well, not an expatriate, but an American living in Japan to do the part, and they probably wasn't close to an actor. They're just somebody that we can get him to do this.
That's just a small little thing that stood out. But
yeah.
Across the board, I thought the actors did well to convey bureaucrats and politicians.
Well, see, that's the thing that I think sets this apart. And I guess to jump in, I loved this movie a great deal because it went back to the tradition of the original Godzilla, which the original Godzilla was a very deep piece of social commentary about.
It wasn't just a monster movie.
No. It was Godzilla was a metaphor for nuclear weapons, and what nuclear weapons, did to the Japanese,
what the U.S. did to the Japanese.
Right, and all this Godzilla was a physical manifestation of this horror that didn't just threaten the Japanese, it threatened the world, because Godzilla did. Godzilla threatened, even in the original, if they couldn't kill him, he could just absolutely wipe the planet clean if we couldn't do anything about him. It would take him a while, but he could do it. And this movie went back to that well, in a sense, because now the culprit is political bureaucracy and loud pickup trucks with heavy exhaust
systems. There's nobody
else
here. Why does he have to pull up? Right, sorry.
No, he left. He was already. Anyway, sorry, but
we're trying to do a podcast in the car. We're poor. We're poor. We're feeding ourselves with donuts and milk and coffee.
Donuts, milk, and coffee. There are people in other countries, and less fortunate countries, that are killing for donuts, milk, and coffee.
And they're not listening to this podcast.
They're not, and that's
nobody
a shame.
is.
Nobody's listening to the podcast, so I can get away. I can use.
You can say whatever you want.
I'll say filthy language. I'll say subversive government things.
But you're right.
Like I'm voting for Trump. Anyway, no, and I'm not.
Godzilla was more than... It was social commentary wrapped up in a monster movie.
It was. And this new one is that as well, which I love the fact that the whole first quarter of the movie is bureaucracy that grinds to so much of a halt. People just start dying, and they don't do anything about it. And it was killing me. I'm sitting here watching and going, would you do something?
They did set up a lot of meetings, so they did something there.
They did, but they kept changing. What I thought was so funny was, okay, we've done enough here. Let's switch to the conference room. They go to the conference room, and they say 3 sentences. The same group of people go, okay, we're done here. Let's go to the next conference. And they go to another conference room. Nobody was added. Nobody was subtracted. It's the same group.
But if they go into this one room, they have to record minutes of the meeting. If they go to the other room, they can just talk freely.
They can't. Like, oh, for heaven's sake, people are going to start getting squashed. Do something. So, but it had that core, which I liked.
Because of what you're saying about the traditional Godzilla and then the more monster-themed take and him turning into a good guy in the later films.
Yeah.
I think you have 2 types of Godzilla movies. Yeah. Not examining the American whatsoever, but within Japanese, you've got the social commentary monster.
Yeah.
And then you have the later Godzilla movies where people just want to see Godzilla smash things.
Stuff, right.
And I think that if you go to a Godzilla movie today looking for Godzilla to smash things, you'll get that in this movie, but you'll also get the commentary. And I don't know if you want to rewatch this movie in the same way that you would watch Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla or something.
No, I don't.
Because you can't laugh at the performances.
No. And Godzilla, and those films I think had their charm, and I enjoyed them. I enjoyed watching, Godzilla jump around and throw other guys in rubber suits on, and even though it does look kind of fake, it's got a charm and it's got an attraction to it that, good grief, look at how many people love those movies, myself included.
I find myself wanting to suspend my disbelief so that I can see this carnage. And it's a guy in a suit smashing models, but it's so cool.
Just to be in the reality of the movie and enjoy it, because it's
and root for the monster.
You do, and some of the when he's the hero, you do.
I think the problem I had, not with this film, but the American Godzilla films, is that
2014,
Godzilla,
you mean? Or...
That one and the Matthew Broderick. Mm-hmm. Is that Godzilla is an enemy. I understand Godzilla is technically always an enemy because he causes destruction, but I want to root for Godzilla, but I feel torn. Like, should I root for him? He's really causing a lot of devastation.
Yeah. Well, it's like the end of the Matthew Broderick one, when he's coming across the Brooklyn Bridge and he gets hit in the side with Tomahawk missiles and he collapses and dies literally at the feet of Matthew Broderick. And then all of a sudden there was a yeah, and the music kicked up. I thought, no, that is mistimed. This should have been a solemn, sad moment. I was sad. I didn't want to see the poor thing get killed. It was just a dumb animal. Granted, it was a threat to humanity, but still, it wasn't responsible. It's like even Matthew Broderick said in the movie, it's not an enemy combatant, it's just an animal. It does what animals do.
It was very fun in this movie, Shin Godzilla, to see the military finally respond. They always do this in the military. They bring out the air strikes.
Right.
They have the ground forces with tanks.
They've gotten better shots since the original series. They were bullseyeing him in the head every time. I was impressed.
It's just so fun. You know that they're not going to hurt him ultimately.
No.
So there's no fear of, oh no, they've hurt Godzilla. So from that standpoint, I can sit back and say, this is cool. They're shooting him and it's not hurting him.
Yeah.
Bullets are bouncing off.
Boy, they were. Missiles were bouncing off.
It's just fun to see them mobilize all of these units. And they're not the little toy tanks anymore. They look like they're either real tanks or they're well-done CG tanks.
CG tanks, yeah.
And it's so fun to see them engaging this giant creature. I think this is where it's like 12-year-old, maybe 7-year-old John is just like,
yeah, I know. And this was good stuff. And Godzilla has gotten an Arsenio makeover. Woo, boy! That I told John when it happened, the flame breath has turned into a lightsaber kind of a thing, chopping buildings, and I was like, dude!
It's like an intensity.
It's like a
level 1, 2, and 3.
Well, yeah, it's like, the old one was a flamethrower, and this is like an arc welder or a heliarc welding gun. It just this white thing, and then the anti-aircraft out of his back. Jeez.
So when he runs out of the energy beam, once he's kind of tired out, it reverts down to the flame breath.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an ultimate move, so to speak, when he has the beam.
Right.
You can't maintain it all the time.
No.
Which is a problem that some people... Never mind. Anyway.
Well, I wouldn't know about that. Never mind. I'm not married or have a girlfriend, so who knows? Anyway,
the Force is not strong with you, Spawn.
No, the Force walked out a long time ago on me, I'm afraid. But hey.
We'll cut this out.
Right. Life is a eunuch. Anyway,
that would be cutting it off.
Yeah, that would be cutting it off. Yeah, well...
Sorry, I had too much sugar.
Yeah, well, it's all right. Too much sugar is good. I guess, going back to the 2014 Godzilla, the problem I had with that one was there was a really, really cool Godzilla movie going on in the background of Godzilla.
Literally 2014. In the background, just out of camera shot.
That was every time the news was cutting to this fight of Godzilla, and then it cut to a television and panned over to, the nurse. I went, what? No, you go back. I want to see that. And the movie, in my opinion, was a horrible failure because of that. There was no...
It teased you. I understand.
In the movie, it teased you.
I understand trailers teasing you, but when you go to see Godzilla, it's like, show me Godzilla!
Yeah.
Show me the lizard!
Show me the lizard. And no need to apologize. That was quite good. And the characters were, and whoever wrote that movie doesn't know a whole lot about war. I don't even know what to call it. Demolitions, because the main character,
Ward Brody,
Fight Club. Yeah, Ward Brody. What was the thing he was in where he played the superhero, Super Kid, Beat Kid?
Oh, he played Quicksilver.
But he was
Avengers.
But he also played what's his name, with green with the yellow stripes down his head.
Green with yellow stripes.
Hit Girl was his sidekick after her dad was killed. In the movie, he was a superhero.
It's that violent graphic novel.
Yeah.
People are screaming at us.
I can't... Yeah, they are. They're going, that, you stupid... Anyway, that guy, he played him. Anyway, he was a demolitions expert in the Marines or the Army. I can't remember which. I had really lost interest by this point.
And they killed Bryan Cranston. I checked out.
I did. I thought, well, I'm done, because this guy... Well, I'll give him a chance, but he never became interesting enough.
He didn't even emote.
No, he didn't even emote. But he was
upset. He's not happy.
But he was
sad.
Well, he was a demolition expert, and maybe this is just me because I know the difference between, between nuclear weapons and regular demolitions. Because he was a demolition expert. He handled explosives and blowing and munitions. And then all of a sudden, when they're transporting a nuke, he says, "I can handle a nuke, sir. I'm in demolitions." No, that is a totally different area. That's like brain surgery. I'm an auto mechanic. I can do that. No, you can't. You have a very specialized skill that is important and interesting, but you can't work on this man's brain. You can't work on a nuke.
It's not a cross discipline.
No, it's not at all. It's nuclear weapons are electricians handle that stuff, and of course practical and nuclear and particle physicists handle warheads. I mean, there's so much into a nuke. No, demolition guys don't have anything to do with that, except for maybe the detonator charge that sets off the reaction. But that's the other guys will handle it. And they drug him along just to keep him in the story. They had him work on a nuke, and it's just that level of... And normally I try to ignore that, but since the rest of the movie let me down and they killed Bryan Cranston, little things like that nettled me.
They kill his character. Bryan is still alive and well.
Right, they did. Yeah, Bryan Cranston, thankfully, is still alive and well. But I am looking forward to the sequel that they're going to make, because maybe they'll actually make a Godzilla movie rather than a movie about a demolition expert who thinks he knows about nukes. Oh yeah, and there's a giant radioactive lizard in the background. No, maybe we'll shift away from that and we'll have a Godzilla movie. Of course, I believe, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard, they're about to release King Kong on it's just called Skull Island, and it's, basically the King Kong story retold again. But it's in the Godzilla universe. So then after that, they're going to do King Kong versus Godzilla, the remake. And that's going to be like in 2019 or 20 or something. We've got Skull Island, and then we're going to have the Godzilla King Kong movie, which will be the direct sequel to Godzilla. I think. That's just a little bit of scuttlebutt I've heard. That could change, or I could be totally wrong even as I speak it, but that's what I've heard.
So, this version of Godzilla grows with mutations. He gets bigger and he changes. He has different forms.
Yeah, he started off as an amphibian-looking thing. That was kind of cool.
It was fascinating to me because I think we missed the first 5 minutes of the movie.
I don't think we missed anything big.
I did.
No, I don't think we did. I think we missed. There was probably because they talked about a problem in the tunnel. I think they had a tunnel. The tunnel caved in, and then it cut to the bureaucracy. I don't think we missed anything.
Okay, but then you see all the stuff in the water, and then bam, you see the creature. And of course, I'm thinking to myself, that's not Godzilla.
He was a little squat. I'm going, that's weird looking.
He's got these weird eyeballs. Godzilla, I can't speak, I'm too excited. He's going to fight this creature, right? Yeah?
Yeah. No.
This transforms into Godzilla.
And it kept mutating. In fact, there is a kind of a stinger of kind of a cliffhanger ending, so to speak, at the end that we will not spoil at this moment. But there will be a sequel. I can already tell, and this is going to be unlike the last 3 Godzilla iterations. I don't think they're going to be going for the Godzilla versus Insectoid from Dimension 3. I think it's going to be,
Dimension X.
Dimension X from Planet X on the other side of Jupiter. That's how they sounded. The Xians. They were my favorite. I think they were my favorite Godzilla aliens. So the aliens from Planet X, because they spoke like this. Welcome, Astronaut Glenn.
Wow.
I loved them. And he had these really cool hand gestures. Hello.
So tell me what you thought about the music in this film. There were a couple of moments where I thought the music took me out of the movie.
Well, because they played the original recording of the original Godzilla thing when he's walking across the train tracks. That was the original dang 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 dang, and it was tinny, and it was recorded in 1954, so it didn't sound all that good.
Why wouldn't they reorchestrate it? And then play that over the credits.
It's cheaper. No, well, they did in Godzilla 2000. The entire ending credits was a reorchestrated version of it, and it's brilliant.
I do remember seeing Godzilla 2000 because I was not impressed with the Matthew Broderick. I know Matthew Broderick didn't make that movie; he was in it.
I know, but
I think it was Roland Emmerich.
It was Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich did it. So yeah, you can blame them all you like.
As you said, not a great Godzilla movie, but
okay film.
I was disappointed with it, and then when I learned that Toho was making their own Millennium or 2000, I saw that and was like, yeah!
Oh, yeah!
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was a guy in a suit for that one, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Part of it was. Some of it was they did use some CGI for it as well. And they used a guy in a suit that they did CGI manipulation of a guy in a suit as well, so it was kind of a threefer.
I remember seeing that in the composition when he's coming up out of the bay. I'm like, yes, this is the best of the old with the best of the new. Yeah. I really like that movie, but I can't tell you anything about the bureaucracy or any of the people because I blanked.
Godzilla Millennium was based around a guy who was part of the Godzilla Prediction Network and his daughter, and a young reporter that followed him around that they kept calling Idiot.
Okay, now I remember.
Yeah, and it's, he was then co-opted by the government because they couldn't figure out how to beat Godzilla, and he kind of, he was more up on the research and stuff. I own the DVD is why.
Gotcha.
Also, interestingly enough, the DVD, and I recommend this, if anybody ever finds the DVD, there's a commentary track on it by, good grief. Not Mike. It's not Michael Schlesinger. Anyway, he's for the fans of our old podcast. He was the producer, one of the producers of the Lost Skeleton of Cadavera, and he did the American version of it. And the commentary is amazing. You get a huge insight into the recutting of it because they had to re-edit some of it because some of it didn't make sense. They wrote new musical cues for it, and they really, they did it with an eye toward preserving the original piece. It's a great commentary where Michael Schlesinger, that's him. Michael Schlesinger talks about. He was basically put in charge of the American edition, and he has a great love for Godzilla, and he really, I think, did one of the best jobs of taking the Japanese version and making it American than I've ever seen. And the commentary is wonderful. His commentary is informative, and you can just hear in his voice the affection that he has for it. So if anybody ever gets the DVD for Godzilla 2000, I recommend it for the commentary alone, almost. Although the movie, of course, is good to watch.
I thought one of the most poignant moments in this new film was when the Prime Minister was contemplating the action that the U.S. suggested of dropping a thermonuclear bomb on Tokyo and the ramifications of what it means to be bombed by the U.S.
A third time. Yeah.
Voluntarily.
Sorry.
Well, not voluntarily, but, wittingly. And participatorily.
And participatorily. Yeah.
Is that a word?
I hope
it
so.
It is now.
I made it up. Yes.
It was just intriguing, like, oh, wow. This is it's not something I think about from day to day, but I think Japan, Tokyo, anybody who has relatives that survived,
well, it's
fresh in their memory apparently, and it's still intriguing because that's a link back to the original Godzilla of the nuclear testing, and that thread is still alive in this film.
And Japan has the horrible distinction of being the only country that has ever been on the receiving end of a nuclear attack during a nuclear war. Because, by definition, World War II was a nuclear war. Because we used nuclear. And I mean, I won't get into, the political, because some people say yay, some people say it was a great idea. We had to, no choice. But again, we won't get into any of that. But all of that, all of the politics of the late 1940s notwithstanding, that was a horrible thing to happen to somebody.
Yeah.
And, or to a country and to a national identity. So I'm not surprised that resonates. I mean, that would choke in your craw, a cultural craw for, generations. And I think it still will.
I think the weight of the piece, what it's trying to accomplish, and you said this earlier, was to criticize the bureaucracy of Japan.
And it's choked, yeah.
And I had read an article about this film because I don't have any insight into Japan government.
Me neither. I don't either. I don't know anything about it.
It was criticizing the response to the tsunami. That
yeah, that's true. Because that kind of was reminiscent when the proto-amphib Godzilla was going up the river, the way the stuff... I mean, that's immediately reminded me of the tsunami footage I saw of stuff just washing down streets.
This is intriguing to me that Godzilla has become a vehicle for ideas of this nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people are going to see it because it's a monster movie. But other people will see it because it means something more.
Well, and I think it's the whole spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down kind of thing. It's the same way that Gene Roddenberry back in the 60s could explore... subjects of racial equality and war and conflict using a science fiction medium, because you can slather it in science fiction and just the regular old, I like that there show, they don't get it. But they gotta do. It's the kind of thing, even people who are just watching Star Trek or Godzilla, this one or the original, just for a monster movie, are watching it, or seeing a monster movie, but they're also seeing these ideas that can, maybe even subconsciously, transubstantiate into the real world and their views on the real world. You watch, the first interracial kiss on Star Trek, you could get away with that because it's science fiction. And, the whole idea of two aliens fighting each other, and I hate him. Why? Because the left side of his face is white and the right side is black. Why do you hate him? Well, because the left side is black and the right side is white. Duh. It's such a ludicrous idea.
Was Frank Gorshin in that episode?
Frank Gorshin was, in fact, one of the Riddler was one of those guys, and whose names escape me at the moment. But, and of course, people are out there going, it's this! I sympathize.
We can only hope.
I sympathize with those people because there's a lot of times I'm correcting people in other podcasts that I listen to, but I'm respectful since we do one, and I hope you will be as well in the comments below. But, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, but if you think about the ludicrousness of a white and a black guy hating a black and a white guy because he's black and white, not white and black, translates to, well, we have two opposing ideologies on the planet that are going to war. Well, why? And it's the same absurdity. It honestly is. There's no ideology that's worth killing somebody over. And he just took it to a ludicrous extent, the white and the black and the white, which is, and I will make no names for anybody who's out there fighting each other who shouldn't be, but you know who you are.
So, were there any performances or any aspects of this movie? Actually, stop that. Let me back up.
All right.
I seem to do this often, but thankfully, through the magic of editing, I sound so much smarter.
And action.
So, I don't think I actually asked you if you liked this movie.
I did. Oh, yeah. No,
okay.
I mentioned that. Yeah, earlier. I said, yes, I did. I did like this movie very much.
Okay.
It satisfied my love of good movies because it gave me a good movie with good social commentary and the like, and it satisfied my want to see Godzilla kicking ass, and because he did, and I've always, in fact, I was telling John before the podcast, I'm the kind of guy who I like to inject Godzilla into other avenues, because I love him so much. I always wondered, and this maybe somebody out there can answer this question, is the Death Star large enough to produce enough of a gravity field that if you set Godzilla on its surface, he could walk around? In which case, the Death Star is doomed, because there's nothing they could do to stop him. And that's that geek in me was satisfied by this movie because of the way they upped the ante. They supercharged him. They turned him up to 11 with not just a fire breath, but now he's got anti-aircraft lasers on his back.
This is built-in radar ability to predict where things are flying overhead.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Them.
And
what was frightening to me was that those, I can call them lasers, basically.
They were.
Lasers out his back, crisscrossing and scissoring as far as the eye could see. Like slicing and dicing buildings. I'm just like, oh!
Yeah.
That's not just effective, that's deadly.
Oh, yeah. And they probably, given the fact that he's radiation, they're probably particle beams. Which a laser is basically a particle beam, but they're particles of light, whereas a particle beam is like gamma particles, like radiation, except it's focused into a single rod of energy. And that's always something I've always wanted to do, because in my youth, I would have sworn before a Supreme Court justice that I read a book that detailed the science behind Godzilla and Godzilla monsters. But I can't find it anywhere. I have looked and looked and looked, and I'm only forced to think that I made it up.
Sean, knowing you, it's very possible that you did. And it was to be thorough too, because
it was. Well, see, I knew, everything, but I knew all these facts that I swore I read somewhere, like Godzilla's cells were permeated with an isotope of uranium, and just, in fact, stuff they go into that a little bit in this movie, not as much as I would like. I want to hear scientific explanations of why an ambulance is coming, but that's for later. But I want to hear scientific explanations about why Godzilla, it's not just enough to me that Godzilla can do this, and it is. I can suspend my disbelief that an organism can generate, a flame breath that is, hundreds of thousands of degrees without incinerating his head.
I was wondering about that. It's like, is he going to melt his own teeth?
Well, see, that's the thing, but if it's a particle beam, sure, because it's, it's focused to the point it doesn't radiate in other directions as much. But, stuff like that. In fact, I may end up, see if somebody out there will give me a grant to write the definitive encyclopedia of Toho Kaiju one day, maybe. I don't know.
I remember seeing from the pictures of Godzilla put online for this film, I thought to myself, his arms are so tiny. They're T-Rex arms.
Sure.
And they get a little bit bigger proportion to his body as he changes. Right. But even still, they seemed a little shrimpy.
Right. Well, he's not,
I know he doesn't use his arms for much of anything.
Ever, yeah. He doesn't, yeah.
But even so, they were comically small.
They were. Well, of course, that's the advantage of a totally CGI'd Godzilla. If you put a guy in there, your arms have to be this big. So if you don't put a guy in there, you're pretty much freed. I'm surprised they took this long to have a completely CGI'd Godzilla. Toho, because we did it, The Matthew Broderick one was totally CGI'd, but
I think they got his movement down to such a way that I felt like this is the way Godzilla moves.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I think a creature that large, which, they even went into the science of him supporting his own weight. Yeah, he obviously can support his own weight, so we should assume that he can move on land. Moved well. I thought the movement was believable for something of that bulk, trying to move around as heavy as he was unimaginably. The one thing that I also compliment this movie over the Matthew Broderick one is the competency of their helicopter pilots. These helicopter pilots the ones that lost their lives to particle beams that they couldn't affect.
Beyond their control.
I was nearly out of my chair when I watched the original Godzilla, and Godzilla was chasing that Apache through the streets. I kept going, will he remember that he's in a helicopter? Is he going to remember that he can fly? Do you remember that you can fly? That's not the service ceiling of a freaking helicopter! And then, of course, he jumps out and is eaten. I thought, no, he didn't remember that he was in a helicopter, and he could have gone straight up and got eaten. And see, that's part of the problem I didn't like about the movie. It was written very
stupidly,
unintelligently. Yeah. Whereas this one wasn't. That's the one thing that so even when they're doing Godzilla, even when they're doing the Godzilla versus Monster X, they're at least smart within the bounds of their continuity. Neither one of our Godzilla movies were smart. They were not populated by smart people, and it just was not, I don't know. And I think that's our problem. We write Godzilla as a horror movie. They write Godzilla as a movie. It's art. We're making a movie, make it count. And we don't. Because we treat, American culture treats that sort of thing as infantile, like animation. American animation is, there are a few shining motes of goodness, and especially in the last about maybe 5 years, American animation has become comedy-oriented. But if you look at anime, that stuff is art. I mean, some of that stuff is amazing, brilliant stuff. Because they give it I'm not going to say the respect that it's due, because, art, there is no art that has any respect due, but I'll say they give it a lot of respect and a lot of gravitas, and consequently produce some of the best animation in the world, story-wise,
right. They treat it
look-wise.
as a medium through which to tell their stories.
Yeah.
And American audiences look at animation as, it's for kids.
Right. And I think Godzilla falls into that same category. And again, it could be used, I think, as a means to put heavy subjects out, but we don't. Wow, this has gone from a Godzilla thing into just a whole analytic of American sensibility versus Japanese sensibility.
Well, they did not paint the U.S. in any pretty lights. You don't paint with light. You paint with colors. They did not paint with any lovely colors.
No. The United States. Well, I love my country dearly, but the stuff they were putting forward, I didn't have a hard time believing that we were capable of. The government's capable of.
Sadly,
the people, not so much.
Either.
Yeah.
No, it's like, that sounds pretty much in line with what would happen. And that's actually, as I was watching it, I was thinking, okay, this film is criticizing the Japanese response, but consider if Godzilla really stomped through San Francisco or New York, or take your pick, probably something coastal.
Yeah.
And what would we do?
Probably close to the same thing.
How do you battle something of that magnitude? Well,
what I loved is they didn't talk about the president in the Dean Devlin, Roland Emmerich Godzilla. They didn't deal with the president. They dealt with the mayor of New York, which was a thinly veiled Roger Ebert. Yeah, because Gene it was Mayor Ebert, and then his sidekick Gene Siskel.
So yeah, I didn't even pick up on that.
Oh, you didn't miss anything. I mean, the performances were great. I thought I liked both of the guy that played Ebert. He was the villain in Harlem Nights. I can't for the life of me think of the actor's name, but he's a great actor, and he did a great job. But the president didn't show his face at all. It was a municipal problem that a giant dinosaur was running through the largest economic center in the country. No, the president would be in on that noise in a hurry. Again, not. And again, I don't want to come down on anybody's intelligence. The guy who wrote, I think it was Devlin or Emmerich wrote the Godzilla. They're not stupid people. They do good work, but the people in that movie did not be the situations in that movie were not plausible to the real world.
Yeah. I thought it was fun how in Resurgence they brought in experts in biology and so on and so forth, and the three guys on the couch like, well, I have no idea.
Right, I don't know. So they had to bring in the geeks and the
nerds and the social outcasts.
To figure stuff out.
Theorists. That was kind of fun.
I liked that. I thought that was really good. That
translated even without English. It's like, okay, you bring in the people who probably are going to think outside the box. Yeah. Set up a team that doesn't respect titles but just goes about solving a problem.
Research for research's sake.
That was a fun moment. And again, I'm not an expert on Japanese culture, but I think even that translates. We get mired down in the way that the government works because it's so big and so inept.
Yeah.
What you need is a crack team of people who are willing to think outside and around and inside.
True.
Just think thoughts.
Think thoughts.
And do stuff.
Do something.
Do or do not.
There is no try. Well, these guys, there really was no try.
And to be honest, their theory on how to stop Godzilla, I won't say what their theory was, but it's like, that sounds kind of far-fetched. But when you're dealing with this creature, it's far better tactic than nuking him.
Yeah, well, I mean...
especially since he feeds on nuclear energy.
Well, see, that was the whole thing in the original series. They never nuked him because they thought, we will create a fantastic growth medium. He will become unstoppable, as opposed to now. But, no, never nuke. I mean, basically, you'd be like burying one of us in gravy or something. It's like, hey, I guess you could drown in gravy.
Death by food.
Death by gravy and chicken planks.
That's the best way to go.
Absolutely. How did he die? Meatloaf. He dropped a giant meatloaf on his head and he died.
It was pretty neat when some of those buildings were collapsing around and on Godzilla.
Yeah, that was a clever. And the train bombs. That was really cool. I was like, yeah.
On one hand, I was like, that's a brilliant strategy. On the other hand, I was thinking,
that's wasteful.
They're destroying their beautiful trains.
They are. Well, they'll make more. They'll make more.
But I
Japanese industry.
Film.
I did. I'm going to own this one. I will. When I finally get my television and everything set up in the new house I'm moving into, that's going to be one of the first acquisitions.
What do you think about the ratio of monster goodness and bureaucracy, or the people side? Do you think it was well balanced between giving you what you want and laying the framework for
it was in the sense that even when Godzilla was not on screen, everybody there was talking about him. He was the focus of everyone's intent when not on the screen. They weren't looking for their child who was in the rubble. They weren't trying to figure out where my platoon went. They're not, they're not dealing with ancillary stuff, which was the problem. Even though Godzilla was not in hardly any of the 2014 version, he wasn't even in it in spirit. In this one, from beginning, at least to the beginning that we saw, to the end, it was about, even like I say, when Godzilla was not on screen, everything in the scene was directed and talking about him, so he was there in spirit. So even though he was in actually a semi-small amount of the movie, I would say he was probably in a little less than 50% of the movie, maybe about 40% of the movie Godzilla was in. But the other 60%, everybody was talking about and freaking out about Godzilla, so it worked, and I could live with the. I mean, I would have loved to see more of him because I thought he looked cool, and I wanted to see him do more stuff. And maybe now that we have this cliffhanger ending at the tail end of the film,
hard.
There's a pun there you'll get when you see the film.
I appreciated lots of those lingering shots on Godzilla where you can just see his whole form, even have close-ups of his face.
Yeah.
And there's this one shot, you might remember, it's kind of on a diagonal. His head's way up here, and his tail and thigh are way down here. It's like, I could see all of Godzilla in the whole widescreen frame. It's just...
Right, yeah.
It packed him into the whole thing.
It was well shot. The movie, the cinematography was excellent. There were shots from the tail of one of the helicopters, and you could see past the missile pylon of the Bell Huey, and all the way down, you could see Godzilla off in the distance in this helicopter. I was like, whoa, that's great. And the tracking shots from the ground of Godzilla as if you're on a truck and it was just driving past him. And it was just a camera shot. There was no motivation for it in the scene other than it just looked like a shaky shot from the ground. And they blended him into reality very well. I
bought the fact that he was there.
Yeah, he was. I could see
him.
Even
when he was small and crawling out of the ocean and causing the waves to knock all those boats around. I was like, wow, he's not enormous yet, but he's causing destruction. This is a problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then that super wide shot where he just kind of collapses to take a short little nap. And you're like,
right, yeah.
Even at that size, like, how would you stop something like that?
Oh, that's...
And that's the dilemma that they have.
That's the dilemma that they have, and will continue to have, hopefully, for several more movies to come.
So regardless of whether it's plausible, what would you do in that scenario? And that's a fun idea to explore.
It is. I have to admit, even though I've never had any aspirations as an actor, there is a small few amount of roles that I've always wanted to play. And I've always wanted to be the expert scientist in a monster movie like that. A Godzilla movie especially.
So you can spew out that scientific hash.
I'm the one that comes in and when they say, we will use nuclear weapons, I can go, no, you're going to bury him in gravy and use lines like that. I mean, no, you stupid idiot, don't do this.
Haven't you watched any Godzilla movies?
Aren't you paying attention? Are you dumb? Are you really that stupid? Stop what you're doing and think for a minute, Mr. Prime Minister.
I can't think that a monster stomping through my city.
I've always wanted to be that guy in a movie. One day, maybe not. I don't know.
There were some small bits of character development. I think that what you saw from the perspective of the people was coping with disaster, and there wasn't a lot of room to...
Hang on a second. Pause. Just moving. Hang on just a second. Just a minute or just a second. Sorry, folks. I had to pause for oxygen. I literally cannot see outside of the vehicle.
It's a little foggy in here.
And it was getting, I don't know about you, but it was getting a little difficult for me to breathe.
I'm all right.
All right, okay. And back.
And we're back.
Oh, and this is where the actual podcast will start. And we're back. Anyway.
There were some attempts to do some real characterization, but there wasn't a lot of room in the movie, I think, to see it to its completion. You've got the lead character who, we had problems remembering their names.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's they were fine. Yeah, they were fine actors.
So I don't have the character names, but I have the actor's names. So Hiroki Hasegawa.
Hasegawa.
He played arguably the lead hero.
Yeah.
A voice of reason amidst all the crazy peoples. And then Yutaka, who was, I think, was Prime Minister's...
the Prime Minister's aide, yeah, and the head cabinet minister after something happened.
And then Satomi Ishihara.
Ishihara, yeah,
as an American-Japanese liaison.
Yeah, she was apparently part of the She was part of the State Department from the United States, and her father was American and her mother was Japanese, so she was a Japanese American who spoke fluent Japanese and kind of broken English.
I had the impression that there might be something romantic developing between the girl and the lead, but there was really no room for it, except for 3 scenes that they had together walking along by themselves, pontificating on life, the universe, and everything.
Sure.
But it didn't go in that direction, and I think it's fine because there was no room to flesh it out.
No, there wasn't.
But she had political aspirations. They joked twice about her being the president.
The president in like 8-9 years or something, yeah.
Or when she reached her 40s or something.
Yeah,
like
by her 40s, sure.
They kind of played it as a joke when she talked to the other guy, but when she talked to her father, the president...
No, her father was like a senator or something,
okay. Yeah. When she talked to him, it seemed like that was actually a goal of hers. But it made me wonder if we're going to see these characters again in the sequel.
Well...
Or if we're going to get a new cast.
In fact, I can't really think of... In none of the iterations of Godzilla have any characters ever made it from movie to movie, weirdly enough.
Intriguing.
None, yeah. None that I can think of. I mean, there might be some in some of like the third... Because the third iteration I am woefully ignorant of. In fact, I've only seen half of them. I need to kind of watch those. But in the first iteration from 1954... You had characters referred to, like in Godzilla Raids Again, they referred to Dr. Serizawa, who invented the oxygen destroyer, and they referred to the oxygen destroyer, but none of the characters from the first one made it into the second one. And of course, the third one was King Kong versus Godzilla. Again, totally new cast, and every time
that's because all of these people move out of Tokyo
and get away. they move to China, or they move to San Francisco, or London, or Belgrade, anywhere away from that.
I appreciated the few touches of humor that were in the film. The second Prime Minister having a bowl of soggy noodles.
Soggy noodles. My noodles are soggy. This sucks.
Yes. And then one guy with the laptop who discovered the radiation patterns or something, looked to another, he's like,
And he held up his computer and ran around. It was a true geek, and it was a true geek move, and I was very proud of him.
So even though I didn't know what they were saying in their own language and I had subtitles to read, there's certain things that just translate.
Excuse me. Whew. Sorry. All right.
Crop dusting, boy.
Okay, yeah, there we go.
This ain't like dusting crops, boy.
This ain't like dusting crops, boy. You might bounce too close to a star or fly through a supernova and that ended your trip real quick, wouldn't it? Sorry, that was not going to be pleasant.
The destruction of Alderaan.
Yeah, the destruction of Alderaan.
So, overall, if we had to affix stars, or... I think we said fixed... Yeah, we always
we do stars. We do stars.
5 being Schindler's List, 1 being Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four, yeah.
By the way, we never released that podcast because our enthusiasm for it was so low.
We couldn't. One day we might. If we get enough comments going, we want to hear you guys talk about the Fantastic Four movie, we'll do it.
Which is a shame, because I remember having one epiphany moment where I spewed off an alternate take for the entire storyline, and you and Erica both thought it was nice. But anyway,
I don't remember it at all, so I would like to hear it again. We need to set up an archive.
Well, yeah, it is. We'll probably I'll probably look back and see if the Godzilla 2014 If that's...
And you could release that one and this one in one 3-hour swoop. Oh, these people, you guys would hate us soon. An hour, 3 hours. Come on, guys. We don't want to hear you talk for 3 hours. Well, pause it and come back then, schmuck.
It's a podcast. Listen on your own terms.
You can do it. You don't have to listen to it all at once. We're not sticking a gun to your head that you know of.
Why are we so...
Although that is a nice sweater you're wearing there sitting at your monitor. Ignore the red dot that's appearing on your forehead.
Why do we antagonize our listeners?
I don't know.
Because we love them.
We do.
And we miss them.
We love them so
All right,
much.
but back to the question.
Back to the question.
If we're going to rate this film...
Yeah.
From
But
1 to 5.
1 to 5 stars.
It's a Godzilla movie, so it's a monster movie. I'm guessing it's in the ballpark of 3 or 4. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it changed the world.
No, it didn't.
I can't figure out... I can't see anything wrong with it.
No, I would... I know you have this
I know you like to
hatred of
split
half
stars.
But
What does it mean?
because a 3.5 is better than a 3, but not as good as a 4, which is why I'm giving this one 3.5 stars.
Oh, Sean.
It's not as good. It's better than a 3, but it's not quite a 4. The original Godzilla was a 5, by the way. That is an amazing moving movie. A moving movie it is, and the telling. You know, when you see, I mean, the legions of the dead, you know, and the little girl, the orphaned kids and stuff, is like, eek.
I'm torn between a 3 and a 4. I'd say that a 4 is a really great movie that is only limited by not being a classic. Sometimes you see a film, it's an instant classic.
Yeah.
I don't think I can say it's a...
No, and I'm a Godzilla fan, and I agree with that. So
hovering between 3 and 4. I'll just say it's definitely a 3.
okay, yeah, it is definitely a 3. I think it's a little better than a 3, but yeah, but it isn't quite a 4.
But I won't split stars, so I have to say 3.
Okay, all right.
So 3 for me and 3.5 for
3.5, 3.58.
You can't do that.
Okay, I won't do that.
One
to you.
decimal point. I'll afford you.
All right, 1 decimal point. Well, that means I can go a 3, a 3.1, a 3.2, a 3.3, a 3.4. So I'll call it a 3. I'll call it a 3.6.
Is it the see to the right of the decimal is the ones, tens, hundredths?
Yeah, it's
To the ones.
Yeah, so you're giving me it's a tenths. It's the tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So you're giving me
I'll give you a tenth.
a tenth. So it's a little over halfway to a 4. So it's like I say a 6. I give it a 3.6
All right.
stars.
What are they going to do with these 0.6 stars?
Well, because, I mean, you know, it widens the field a little bit. You know, you can have leeway within the 3-star and leeway within a 4-star. I don't know.
All right, well,
That's what you're doing. That's what you got. That's what you signed up for. That's when you started this whole mess.
we weren't going to do stars, were we?
Right.
We were just to do like one-word reviews or
And
something.
the funny thing is, I started this whole mess. Everyone,
you really?
I got you into this. So it's my job to get you out, kind of a thing.
Well, this was fun. I enjoyed the film.
I did very much.
It makes me want to watch some old Godzilla movies,
Yeah.
and particularly everything from the 90s forward. Mm-hmm. So even including Roland Emmerich.
Well, we should do that once. We should have do a Godzilla-thon of movie, you know, of the third generation stuff that I've never seen that we could, you know, all watch together.
Yeah, I think we could.
Is Erica like Godzilla
I don't know if she's
that...
ever seen Godzilla.
Oh, dude. Well, we got to do that then. Good grief.
And I think that we could probably do some long-form written reviews on our website for anybody who cares to gain insight into the older Godzilla films.
Yeah. We could work up something like that.
If anybody's interested in that, let us know. Leave a comment on the website, at YouTube, at SoundCloud.
Yeah. Also, this might be the time to hint at that John and I are cooking up something else possibly going into, and John's looking at me weird like he doesn't know what I'm talking about because maybe I haven't brought it up to him yet, so this might be the first he's heard of it too.
What?
We're
going to adopt a child?
We're going to adopt a child from Zimbabwe, raise him up as Angelina Jolie would want us to.
Yes, and then we shall get divorced.
Get divorced, I know, because it's just not going to work out.
In all seriousness, that's a
snore.
very sad scenario.
It is. It really is. I was sorry. I was sad to hear that because they have so many kids and, you know, doesn't matter how much money you have when your home's broken, it's bad.
But on a lighter, happier note, your idea, Sean.
Well, John and I are also currently working in a sort of what you'd call a writer's bee or a writer's guild, where John and I and our associate Andrew Helzendegger, which you will remember from our Star Wars podcast, are all getting together and helping each other with our various writing projects. Because John is a writer, I'm a writer, and Andrew is a writer, and
we all want to be better.
We all want to be better at it, and we think in the process of us making ourselves better writers, we could help you guys be better writers. And we are just thinking about now, so don't start expecting this anytime soon. Just it's on the burner that we might start doing an alternate podcast about our various adventures into what we're writing, how we're going with it, and what we're doing to overcome problems.
Yeah, we have questions that we work through that address storytelling from different points of view.
Yes.
And composition, but also character development, and
which are both equal, and things like you roll out of bed, you go to work, you come home, you sit in your chair, you stare at YouTube, and you just cannot find it in yourself to write or create. How do you get out of that? I am currently in that dilemma, so as soon as I figure that out, that will be something I will communicate to you. Because I go to work, I come home, I stare at YouTube, and then go to bed, and then rinse and repeat for 5 days a week.
And where do you find time to jot down ideas? Where do you find time to write?
I don't. That's the really sad. Saturdays. Saturdays. That's my first day off, so I tend to try to put stuff together. But it's in fact I had a problem. Although should we go into this now, or should we wait for the meeting?
I'll wait for the meeting.
I'll wait for the meeting to say, because I had a horrible thing happen a couple of weeks ago. But we'll save it. We'll save it for the...
Lords of Latakia.
The Lords of Latakia. Why?
Did you say Lards?
Lards? The Lads.
The Lads.
The Lads of Latakia. We are the Lords of Latakia because we all drive Kias. We have a lot of Kias.
That's true.
And Latakia is also a port city in Syria, but that's just neither here nor there.
Happenstance.
Here's
a comment that, I don't know if you saw this, but
no.
A comment from YouTube on our Lost Skeleton of Cadaver video review.
That was a long time ago.
And this is a long comment, so I responded to it there. I'll just pick out a few salient details, and maybe we can address them.
Sure.
It says, I would have liked, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, UJMQAZ. That's... Anyway,
wow.
That's
wordy.
He says, I would have liked to hear, he compliments us, and he says, I would like to hear more in-depth opinions about the film and more specifics. A lot of the videos about the context and not of the film rather than the film itself. I would really like to see more analysis of the film, such as, what did you like about the actor's approach? More of that would be great. Talk about subversive parody versus straight parody. Talked about Cabin in the Woods.
So this is basically, he's giving us way more credit than we have.
But he does list some of his favorite quotes from the movie.
Oh, good.
You're against me, aren't you? Of course you are. All skeletons are against me. They always have been. Ever since I was a child, I was hated by skeletons. So, another one is the, let's see, together you and I will rule the world. Together. As well as, this is for you to know. That is for you to know. That's not my problem. And then just the phrase skeleton brain. So those are a few of his or her favorite quotes.
Well, thank you for the comment. That's you make a lot of good points. We were
getting started.
Well, we
didn't know what we were doing.
Well, we still kind of don't. But what we do is what was the name again?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 0, 9, or 90 JMQA something.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 JMQ XK Red 27. John and I tend to shoot from the hip. We went and saw this movie. It hasn't even been an hour since we walked out of the theater and then went to Hot Pots Donut and Coffee. Did I say it right?
No.
What is it? Oh, sorry. It's been an hour since we stepped out of Top Pots Donut and Coffee.
We're them money now.
They're gonna sue us. Anyway, not a sponsor. American Judicial System, not a sponsor. We tend to shoot from the hip. We watch this movie immediately. We are sitting in John's Kia Spectra 5-door talking about this. I mean, we haven't had a lot of time to do a lot of analysis.
It's actually more, I don't know how fun it is for the listeners, but it's more fun for us to have what is essentially a Sean and John conversation, which we then record.
Right. Which is, yeah.
We did have outlines and talking points in the past for other podcasts, and those just weren't as fun.
And they
just fun to do, but to listen to.
And they weren't as entertaining.
They were more organized, but...
They were. But you could have a point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 0, 0, XKYJ.
Niner.
And Niner, XK, Red 27 technique.
Mother Bird.
Red 5 standing by. We probably need... We probably should find a medium, because you're right. We should have a little bit of analysis and comparison.
Well, if we have some thoughts that we want to write down, we can share that in blog format, I think.
That might be a good idea. That would give us
thorough that way.
Yeah.
Give us time to pontificate.
Sure.
And enumerate and illuminate and groomerate.
Groomerate and micturate.
Ooh.
That means pee.
Oh.
That's the technical definition.
I can do that whenever I want. I'm wearing pants.
I'm going to go micturate. Thank you very much.
For those still
listening after all this time,
we recently relaunched cinemafilibuster.com so that you can find not only the YouTube videos but also the podcast there. Everything is interconnected. That is now the hub we can find.
Right.
A lot of people that listen on iTunes don't watch the YouTube podcast because who watches podcasts? But they're there in case people want that.
And I myself...
And the podcast lives, the files live on SoundCloud.
On SoundCloud, that's true.
So find us there also at soundcloud.com/cinemafilibuster. Or go to the website and there's a link there.
A link there. There's always links there.
There's a web. It's connected.
We have several links and a lot of Rets as well. little YouTube mention for you there for Ret and Link, not a sponsor.
I would love it if they sponsor us.
I would love if they sponsor. I love if they had us as guests. In fact, they should just retire and give us the desk. That is something, though, a question that I put to you, the listening audience. John and I started this out as a vlog, and we, for various reasons of time and money, and
camera lighting,
and
equipment,
stuff, location, we've desisted from that. I myself would like to go back to that.
I think
eventually. I mean,
I think that if we both had our laptops with Google Hangouts, we could record both of us on screen at the same time in the comfort of our respective homes.
Yeah.
Have a video and audio file, and then export the audio file as a podcast.
And then do the
So we do it once.
Well, I would also like to do an in-studio thing, if we could ever find some place to set up, someplace that we don't.
Well, you live so far away, and I live so far away.
I do. John lives in a region of Washington State called, you don't live in Bothell anymore, is it?
No. I'll keep the location private, just for my wife.
Oh, yeah, you're right. No, he doesn't live anywhere in Washington. They live in Nevada. Sorry, my bad. Wow. In fact, what am I saying? Just
John
cut that out.
Timbuktu.
John lives in Timbuktu. John lives somewhere north of Seattle, somewhere
over the rainbow,
near Canada, and I live south of Seattle, somewhere past Baghdad. So it's a bit of a drive for us to meet up. We usually meet up in the middle somewhere. So, but who knows? I mean, what do you guys think? Would you like to see us talking more about it? And John's way works as well. Mm-hmm. My way works too. So just let us know in the comments below. What do you think? What do you want from us? So that we can hit that million subscriber mark.
Or just the 100.
The 100 subscriber mark would be nice at this point. I'm not out to make money. I don't care. I just want you to love me.
We don't do this podcast for money.
No,
but if you want to give us money, we will take it.
We will. Boy, will we take money.
With greedy, grubby paws.
Greedy, sticky donut soak from Top Pot Donuts and Coffee.
Yeah!
Not a sponsor. All right.
Any closing remarks? Thoughts?
Well, I recommend this movie. I don't know if it's going to be available. We saw it in the theater. I don't know how long it's going to be available because it's only been.
I suspect it had limited showings and limited runs.
Yeah, so it's.
Today was the 2 p.m. showing, the only one of today.
Yeah, so you may not be able to see this movie in theaters, but
I'm sure it'll be streaming or on physical media.
Oh, sure, not very long. And I recommend it when it comes out. I recommend it as a buyer, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy it myself.
I think it'll be enjoyable for fans of both types of Godzilla films.
I think so. I think it'll be. It's a good movie for just general science fiction, and it's also a good movie for people who like movies about people, because there's a lot of the people dealing with themselves and dealing with Godzilla, it's very real, and I think people who enjoy good drama would enjoy this.
Yeah. Plus, it's so cool to see his tail light up and just...
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Yes.
It appeals to the kid.
It does.
Well, folks, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
As always, I am Jonathan Sulzbach.
And I am, in loving regard, Sean Hastings.
I have no loving regard for anyone. You get my wife.
Sure you... Oh, well, no.
Adios, and take care.
Color Us Gone.
And now, the credits. Intro music by Henry Kadib. Outro music by Matt Steiner. Show concept and creation by Sean Hastings and Jonathan Sulzbach. Find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and of course, cinemafilibuster.com. Leave a comment at any of those venues and we'll read it in a future episode. Thanks for listening.